It's common for players to leave behind a game after the initial honeymoon period. Many games see it happen, even popular first-person shooters like Call of Duty and Battlefield. But then there's the other type of game, the competitive, skill-based online game. Tactical shooters like CSGO and Rainbow Six Siege, or fighting games like Ultra Street Fighter 4, games that have really high skill ceilings that require long-term player participation and commitment. Those games actually see player growth over time. For Honor was to be one of those games, a highly intricate medieval combat game that centered around skill. That was the whole premise of the combat system, to simulate the artistry and technicality of actual sword fighting. When you really break it down, For Honor is essentially a three-dimensional fighting game. All of the usual suspects are present: parries, combos, cancels, blocking, framing, spacing, moves and abilities, speed and reaction style gameplay, inputting, health meters, and fighting styles. Ceteris paribus, the fighting system in For Honor is really quite great and unique. At least on the surface, it's a game with great potential. But For Honor is failing. For Honor has lost 96% of its player base, which is now hovering at an average of 1,200 players. We know all about the obvious technical issues with its peer-to-peer networking. Connection stability has been a problem actually since the beta, and Ubisoft has been unable to respond with a proper fix. We know all about the bugs, and the crashes too, which have caused many people to quit the game, shrinking the already dwindling player pool. We know all about the horrendous matchmaking and For Honor's inability to properly rebalance and distribute parties based off of dropped team members. And we know that the progression system is bad, really bad, and exploitative, and the microtransaction system probably shouldn't be there. So I ask, if all of this were fixed, everything unrelated to the actual gameplay, would For Honor not be failing? For Honor's combat system, while unique and interesting, is often what people call scripted, especially for players who know what they're doing. In a scripted fighting experience, the outcomes of almost every possible situation are known ahead of time by the players. For example, in a Warrior vs Frost Mage matchup in Warcraft Arena, the battle plays out the same. There's not much variance in play decisions from either class, so it becomes when Warrior does X, Frost Mage does Y, or for every action, there's a predetermined reaction. It's a going through the motions type of gameplay, and this quickly gets boring since the outcome is the same every single time. People need to feel like their decisions make a difference in the result of a fight, that they've outplayed, predicted, or read their opponents. After all, when the gameplay is based off of skill, that's what we want. The chance to reflect on what I did wrong, what I can do to change things and become a better player, instead of just, well, that's just how the matchup plays out, there's nothing I could have done better. It was a problem with WoW Arena, and now it's a problem with For Honor. In contrast to the scripted fighting experience, other games promote more reactionary or prediction-based gameplay, such as Street Fighter V. In every scenario, there's a wider range of options that lead to different outcomes, and many of those can be reactionary-based, and most of them are not predetermined. For instance, when Ryu does X, Ken can do Y, Z, A, B, C, or D. Instead of there being a predicted outcome, there is more of a decision tree going on. Ken can beat Ryu, Ryu can beat Ken in any scenario that comes up, because any decision that's made can affect the flow of the game. There is a greater range of gameplay when a game is designed as a reactionary game versus a scripted fighting experience. For Honor is a game that seems to land somewhere in the realm of that scripted PvP combat, much like WoW Arena, a game that, while fun, often falls into the trap of following the when X happens, Y will happen routine. It's fun for a while, but eventually, the experience becomes polarized into a state of predictability. The problem For Honor has is that this system is the entire game. World of Warcraft Arena didn't have this issue even though they shared scripted gameplay. After all, the arena was just one small piece of an otherwise giant game. There was no giant game outside the combat of For Honor. Games like Street Fighter end up being so much more complex and interesting over the long haul because there are no limitations on what is to be expected. In For Honor, I believe that is the biggest issue with the game that no one seems to be talking about. Many For Honor fans said that the game would die after 2 months. The connectivity issues were the main culprit, and most players abandoned the game. For those that stuck around, perhaps the scripted nature of For Honor's combat system was an experience too thin and predictable to keep them on board. When Season 2 hit on May 16th, many people came back to see if big changes were going to be introduced, but then bailed once again after 2 weeks. Other competitive games on Twitch see huge resurgences of players coming back over the long stretches of the game, such as WoW, League, or Dota, but For Honor is not one of those games. I think the big question is, can Ubisoft fix For Honor just like they did with Siege? Siege has always had really deep and rewarding gameplay that is as tactful as it is skillful. But the gameplay was never the issue with Siege. It was just like with For Honor, connectivity and performance-related issues. For Honor would need both, a rehaul of its technical systems and an overhaul of its core scripted gameplay design to be long-term successful. But really though, where is the benefit to Ubisoft? For Honor sold well, has microtransactions as a second source of income, and the company isn't paying fees for dedicated servers. There is no way in hell For Honor is going to get the support it needs after it has already cashed in on those interested in buying it. Make no mistake, the only reason Rainbow Six Siege was turned around with the support it got was because it did not sell well, and the only way to do that was to transform the game from the ground up to get those sales. For Honor has already gotten those sales and is not going to get that treatment. It would simply be a wasted investment. For Honor is indeed a foregoner. Thanks for watching, guys. You got an opinion on this matter? Drop a comment down below and we'll chat about it, and thumbs this video up if you enjoyed our discussion today, and subscribe here for more of our future content. You guys have an awesome day and we'll see you on our next video.